The night was burning. The alien city, once bright with tall towers and shining lights, was now only fire and smoke. Buildings fell like broken teeth. The streets were filled with dust and ash. Alarms screamed. Distant guns cracked again and again. Through this chaos, one figure ran. She was not a warrior. She was not armed. She was only a mother. Her hands clutched a small bundle close to her chest. Inside that bundle was her child. Her skin was pale silver, marked with glowing blue lines, the sign of her people. Her eyes, wide and shining, were full of fear. She whispered to the child again and again, as if her words could protect him. "Quiet. Stay quiet, my little star. I will keep you safe." I promise. The child was weak. His breathing was soft, almost lost under the roar of collapsing walls. He did not cry, but he stirred, and every small sound made the mother's heart pound harder. Above them, enemy ships cut across the dark sky. Their searchlights stabbed through smoke, hunting for survivors. The mother pressed herself into the shadows of a broken wall. She could hear the machines, metal footsteps, scanning drones moving closer. She dared not move. But she dared not stay. Slowly, carefully, she slipped into an alley. Her bare feet touched cracked stone, careful not to make a sound. She knew the city better than the hunters, but tonight the city was no friend. Tonight every shadow was danger. The child whimpered, a soft, thin sound. The mother froze. From behind, a beam of red light swept across the alley. A soldier's mask glowed in the darkness. His weapon rose. He had heard the sound. The mother held her child tighter. Her mind screamed, "Run! Hide!" But her body froze. She knew she could not outrun the weapon. The soldier took a step forward. His finger moved on the trigger, and then a blur of movement. A shadow stepped out from the smoke. The soldier's weapon never fired. In an instant he was struck down. A sharp sound of metal against bone. The soldier fell. The mother gasped. There, standing over the fallen body, was a figure she had never expected to see. Not one of her people. Not one of the enemy. It was a human. He was tall, broad, but tired. His armor was scratched, old, covered in dirt and dried blood. A rifle hung from his shoulder, but it was broken, useless. In his hand he held only a heavy metal rod, bent at the end. His face was hard, lined with scars, his eyes dark and cold. For a moment the mother thought he was another enemy. But then he spoke. "Get up," he said, voice low and firm. "If you want to live, follow me." The mother stepped back, clutching her child. Humans were not trusted here. Humans were stories told to frighten children. Humans were killers. Why would this one help her? The man's eyes moved to the child in her arms. For the first time, his face softened. "Only a little, but enough. They'll be here in seconds," he said. "Stay and you die." "Move and maybe you don't, your choice." The mother's heart raced. She did not know him. She did not trust him. But the sound of boots was already growing louder. More soldiers were coming. She looked at her child's small face. She looked at the human's hand, reaching out. She chose. Together they ran. Through broken streets they moved, the human leading, the mother clutching the child. He knew the paths. He avoided the lights. He struck down 2 more soldiers with quick, brutal force. He did not speak again. He did not explain why he helped. At last they slipped into the ruins of an old station. It was dark and quiet inside, only the sound of their breathing filling the air. The mother leaned against the wall, holding her child close. Her eyes never left the human. "Why?" she whispered. The man said nothing. He only checked the broken rifle on his back, then looked toward the door. Outside, voices echoed. The enemy was searching. The hunt was not over. The mother's body shook with fear. Her child stirred again, letting out a soft cry. The human turned, his face grim. "Keep him quiet," he said. "They're coming." And in that moment the mother knew. Her fight to save her child had only just begun. The silence in the ruined station was thin, ready to break. Dust floated in the air, drifting through cracks in the ceiling. The alien mother pressed her child close, her body trembling. Across from her, the human leaned against a wall, his shadow long and sharp in the dim light. For a moment, they only looked at each other. Neither trusted the other. Neither wanted to speak first. Finally, the mother's voice broke the silence. Why did you save us?" The human's eyes narrowed. His jaw was tight like stone. "Didn't save you," he said. "Saved the boy. Something tells me he matters." Her heart skipped. How could this stranger know? She had not spoken of the child's gift. She had told no one. She wanted to deny it, but her lips refused. She only held the child tighter. The human stepped forward, slow and steady. His boots echoed faintly on broken stone. The mother flinched, but he stopped just short, lowering his voice. You can run, but you won't make it alone. The streets are crawling with hunters. They'll find you before dawn. She shook her head. I cannot trust you. Humans killed my people before. You are not my friend. His face hardened. I'm no friend to anyone. Not anymore. For the first time she saw it, the weight behind his eyes. Not just anger, but sorrow. He carried ghosts, unseen but heavy. Before she could answer, a sound split the air outside. Marching boots, voices in harsh tones. The enemy was close. The human turned to the door, his muscles tense. They found the trail, he said. You decide now, her breath caught. She looked at her son. His small chest rising weakly, his face pale. The sound of the soldiers grew louder. She could already see their shadows stretching under the door. Her choice was no longer hers. She gave a single sharp nod. The human's eyes met hers. He said nothing more, only motioned for silence. He crouched, gripping the bent iron rod in his hand. His body was like a wolf ready to strike. The door creaked. A beam of red light swept inside. The human moved first. He struck with brutal speed, slamming the rod into the first soldier's mask. Sparks burst. Another soldier raised his gun, but the mother, desperate and fierce, grabbed a loose brick and hurled it with all her strength. It hit his head enough to throw him off aim. The human finished him before he could recover. The child whimpered, frightened by the violence, but alive. When the last body fell, silence returned. Only the smell of blood and smoke remained. The mother's chest heaved. She stared at the human in shock. He was not graceful, not like her people's warriors. His moves were rough, savage, but effective. He looked back at her. Told you. With me, maybe you live. Without me, you don't. Her lips trembled. She wanted to refuse again, to spit in his face. But she saw the truth in his words. She saw it in the bodies at her feet. At last, she whispered, Then lead. The human gave a single nod. No smile, no kindness, only agreement. He pulled open a back door leading into the black tunnels beneath the station. The air was damp and foul. The mother followed, clutching her son, her every step heavy with doubt. But as they moved deeper into the dark, she felt something else stirring. Not trust, not yet, but a fragile spark of hope. Perhaps she thought this human was not here by chance. Perhaps fate had brought him. And yet, in her heart, another fear grew stronger. If fate had brought him, what price would it demand? The tunnels were endless. Broken pipes dripped water into shallow pools. The air smelled of rust and rot. Every drop echoed like a warning, bouncing through the darkness. The mother held her child close, her bare feet splashing softly as she followed the human. The man moved quickly, but his steps were silent, measured. He carried himself like someone who had lived too long in shadows. His grip on the iron rod was tight, ready for anything. Behind them came the sounds, distant shouts, heavy boots, the mechanical growl of machines. The enemy was not far. The hunt had begun. The mother whispered to herself as she ran. Please, little star, stay quiet. Please. The child stirred weakly, but did not cry. That silence was their only shield. Suddenly, the tunnel split into 3 dark paths. The human paused, listening. He placed a hand on the wall, feeling the faint vibrations. His head tilted, eyes narrowing. They're fanning out, he muttered. Trying to box us in. The mother's breath caught. What do we do? He turned to her, eyes sharp but steady. We keep moving fast. They took the left path. The tunnel bent sharply, then opened into a vast chamber filled with collapsed beams and old machines. The roof had caved in years ago, letting moonlight cut through in silver streaks. Dust floated like ghosts in the air. The mother slowed, staring up at the broken ceiling. For a brief moment, it almost looked beautiful. But then came the sound. A low, guttural growl. Her heart froze. From the shadows of the chamber, 2 glowing eyes appeared. Then 4. Then 6. The hunters had released their beasts. Alien hounds bred for war. The human cursed under his breath. The beasts were lean, with armored hides and jaws lined with metal fangs. Their growls shook the air as they stepped closer, circling. The mother's legs trembled. She pressed her back against the wall, shielding her child. "We can't fight them," she whispered. The human's eyes stayed on the creatures. He tightened his grip on the rod. "We don't fight. We run." The hounds lunged. The human grabbed the mother's arm and pulled her, forcing her to move. They sprinted across the chamber, dodging fallen beams, leaping over debris. The beasts crashed after them, claws scraping against stone. Their howls echoed through the tunnels. The child let out a frightened cry. The sound drew the hounds closer, their glowing eyes burning brighter in the dark. One leapt, aiming for the mother's back. At the last moment, the human swung his rod, slamming it into the beast's skull. The creature crashed to the ground, stunned but not dead. "Keep moving," he shouted. They ran into another tunnel, narrower, the walls closing in. The beasts chased, their roars shaking the air. The mother's chest burned, her legs screamed for rest, but she forced herself on. She could not stop. She would not stop. Up ahead, the tunnel ended in a collapsed wall, a dead end. The mother's heart shattered. "We're trapped." The hounds were almost upon them. Their claws scraped closer and closer, but the human did not slow. His eyes darted across the rubble, searching. Then he saw it, an old maintenance hatch, half buried under stone. He shoved a beam aside, muscles straining, and ripped the hatch open. A ladder dropped into blackness. "Go!" he barked. The mother hesitated only for a second. She climbed down, clutching her child tight. Darkness swallowed her. The human followed last, slamming the hatch shut just as the hounds lunged. Their claws raked against the metal, their snarls echoing above. The mother's breathing came fast and broken in the pitch black. She could not see the human, but she heard his voice, calm and steady. "They won't stop. Not until you're dead." Her arms tightened around her child. The weight of his words pressed heavy in her chest. The human shifted in the dark, his scarred face hidden by shadows. "But I've seen worse. If you keep moving, if you don't lose hope, maybe, just maybe, we make it out alive." For the first time, she believed him. And yet, in the silence below the earth, she also felt something else. The hunt was not over. The true danger had not even begun. The tunnel stretched on forever. The air was damp and heavy. Every step echoed like a warning. The mother's arms ached, but she never loosened her hold on the child. His skin was cold, his small breaths shallow. The human walked ahead, silent as stone. His shoulders were tense, his scarred hand tight around the iron rod. Even in the dark, his presence was steady, like a shield between her and the world. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the drip of water and the faint rattle of loose stones filled the silence, but at last the mother's voice broke through. "You ask why I carry him, why I run." The man did not turn. His voice was low. "Didn't ask. I already know." Her eyes widened. "Know what?" "That child isn't ordinary." He glanced back, his gaze sharp and knowing. The way the soldiers hunt, the way their commander came down here himself. He's after more than a mother and son. The boy has something they fear. The mother stopped walking. Her chest tightened. Fear and anger mixed inside her. "You don't know what you speak of." The man took a step closer. His voice grew softer. "I know the look in their eyes. I've seen whole armies chase one child before. I've seen what they'll do to get power." Her arms trembled around the bundle. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. But his eyes, scarred and hollow, left no room for lies. Finally, her lips parted. "He is different." Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "He was born with a gift. Something our people thought was gone forever. His blood carries light, power. They call it the spark. It is said to come only once in 1,000 years." The human frowned. His eyes dropped to the child's pale face. "And the enemy knows? They fear him," she whispered. "Because one day, he could rise against them. He could unite what is broken. He could change everything." The man's jaw tightened. He turned away, staring into the shadows of the tunnel. "That explains it." Her voice grew sharper. Now you see why I cannot trust you. If you hand him over, they will reward you with gold, with land, with anything you ask. I would die before I let that happen." The human's face was unreadable. For a long time he said nothing. His silence cut deeper than words. Finally he spoke, his voice cold, but honest. "I don't want gold, don't want land. I've had both. They mean nothing." Her eyes narrowed. "Then why? Why help me?" He did not answer right away. His eyes were on the floor, lost in memories. "Because once, a long time ago, I couldn't save a child. Not mine, not anyone's. I swore I'd never watch it happen again." The mother's heart ached at the weight in his tone. She saw the cracks in his armor, the grief he carried alone. Before she could reply, the tunnel shook. A distant roar echoed through the stone. Dust rained from the ceiling. The human lifted his head sharply. "They're bringing heavy units now." And then a new sound filled the air. A voice deep and cruel carried through hidden speakers. "I know you hear me," the voice said. It was the enemy commander. His tone was calm, mocking. "You cannot run forever. Give me the child and I will let you live. Resist and I will burn every shadow you hide in." The mother froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. The commander's voice grew colder. "Choose wisely, alien mother. The human with you cannot save you. No one can." Her eyes flicked to the man at her side. His face was grim, unreadable, and in that moment, the mother knew. Her secret was no longer safe. The enemy would never stop. Not until her child was in chains. The tunnels led them at last, into a hidden chamber, wide and hollow like an underground shelter. Rusted metal beds lined the walls, broken machines scattered in corners. It smelled of oil, ash, and old blood. The mother sank to the ground, her body trembling from exhaustion. She pulled her child close, brushing a hand over his pale face. His eyes flickered weakly like a dying flame. The human stood guard near the doorway, silent as ever. His eyes scanned every shadow, his hand wrapped tight around the iron rod. But they were not alone. From the dark came footsteps, slow, uneven. A figure emerged, thin, ragged, his clothes torn and filthy. His eyes were sunken, but they glowed with hunger and fear. The mother's heart jumped. She had not seen another survivor in days. You live," she whispered. The man staggered closer, his hands raised. "Please don't harm me. I only want food, please." The mother's pity stirred. She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small piece of dried bread, the last of her rations. She placed it on the ground and pushed it toward him. His eyes widened, greedy and desperate. He snatched it up, devouring it like a starving animal. The human, however, did not relax. His gaze stayed sharp, his body tense. He whispered to the mother without looking at her. "Be careful. Desperate men are dangerous." She frowned. "He is suffering. He is like us." But the human's jaw tightened. "No one is like us. Not here." The ragged man licked his lips, his eyes darting to the child in her arms. "The boy," he said softly. "So weak, so small. Why do they hunt him?" The mother stiffened. "It does not matter." But the man's gaze shifted again, nervous, calculating. His voice trembled. "They will pay for him, won't they? The soldiers, gold, food, safety, all for one child." The human stepped forward, his voice cold as steel. "Don't." But the ragged man smiled, crooked and bitter. "You think I will starve down here while you run? No. I know what he is worth. They'll welcome me if I give him up. They'll spare me." The mother's heart shattered. "No, you cannot." Before she could finish, the man turned and shouted into the darkness. "Here, they're here!" The mother, the child, and a human. Here, the chamber exploded with noise. Boots thundered. Lights blazed. Soldiers poured in like a flood of iron. The mother screamed, clutching her child. The human swung his rod, striking the traitor down with one brutal blow. The man fell, blood spreading across the floor, but it was too late. The soldiers swarmed. Blasters fired, sparks showering the walls. The human fought savagely, breaking helmets, shattering bones, but there were too many. For every one he struck down, 2 more came. The mother ran, trying to shield her child. But a soldier grabbed her arm, ripping the boy from her grasp. She shrieked, falling to her knees as her child was lifted into the air, crying weakly. No! Her voice tore through the chamber like fire. The human roared, fighting with everything left in him. He broke through the line, blood covering his arms, his face. But then the commander appeared, tall and cold, his armor gleaming red in the dim light. The commander raised his hand. Hold! The soldiers froze. The child dangled in one soldier's grip, his tiny body trembling. The mother crawled forward, tears streaming down her face. Please, he is only a child. The commander's mask tilted. His voice was cruel but calm. He is more than a child. He is the spark. And now, he is mine. The mother's heart shattered into silence. The human stood bloodied, surrounded, his rod slipping from his hand. His eyes burned with fury, but he could not move, not yet, not now. The soldiers dragged the mother and human apart, binding their hands. The child cried, reaching out for her, and as the commander turned, leading the soldiers away with the boy, his words echoed like poison. You will live, alien mother. You will live long enough to watch him belong to me. The prison walls were thick with iron and shadow. Torches burned in narrow halls, their flames flickering against stone. Chains rattled in the dark. From outside came the sound of soldiers laughing, their voices sharp and cruel. The mother sat on the cold floor, her wrists bound, her body trembling. Across from her, the human sat against the wall, silent, his face bruised and bloodied. The guards had beaten him, but his eyes, those dark, steady eyes, still burned with fire. Her child was gone. Taken into the commander's fortress, she could feel the emptiness in her arms like a wound that would never heal. At last she broke the silence. Her voice was weak, broken. He is gone. My son is gone. They will twist him, use him. I have failed. The human raised his head. His lip was split, blood dripping down his chin, but his voice was steady. Not yet, her eyes widened. You don't understand. The fortress is impossible. Guards on every level. Traps, machines, walls thicker than stone. No one escapes alive. The man leaned forward, his voice low but firm. I've broken fortresses before. I'll do it again. She stared at him, shaking her head. Why? Why would you risk your life for him? For me, you owe us nothing. The human's eyes darkened. Because if I don't, then everything I've done, everything I've lost means nothing. Before she could answer, footsteps echoed. The cell door opened. A guard entered with food. He sneered as he placed it down. But in that single second, the human moved. Fast, brutal, silent. His bound hand snapped around the guard's throat. A twist, a choke, a muffled gasp, and the man fell. The human tore the keys from the guard's belt, snapping their chains free. He stood tall, his body battered but unbroken. The mother's breath caught. You planned this. He gave a grim smile. I always plan. Together they slipped through the dark corridors, moving like shadows. The human led, every step precise, every sound measured. The mother followed, her heart racing. She had no weapon, only desperation, but she carried it like steel. At last they reached a high balcony. Below, the fortress spread wide. Metal gates, guard towers, roaring machines. And there, at the center, inside a glass chamber, was her child. The boy was strapped to a chair, his small body glowing faintly with the spark. Strange wires pulsed around him, drawing out his power. The mother gasped, her knees weakening. They're draining him. The human's face turned grim. Then we end it now. They climbed down, slipping past sentries, using every shadow, every blind corner. Twice they were almost caught. Once the human killed a soldier with nothing but his bare hands. Each time the mother's heart pounded harder, but her steps never slowed. Finally they reached the chamber. 2 guards stood outside, their weapons ready. The human motioned to the mother to stay back. He moved quick, one strike to the throat, another to the skull. Both men dropped silently. He pulled the door open. Inside, the child whimpered, his body glowing brighter as the machines sucked his energy. The mother rushed in, falling to her knees. My little star, I'm here. Tears spilled down her face as she touched his cold skin. The human worked at the wires, ripping them free with raw strength. Sparks flew, alarms blared. The chamber shook with red lights. They know, he said. We're out of time. The mother clutched her son to her chest. The boy stirred weakly, his eyes opening, glowing faintly. For the first time his gaze met the humans. The man froze for a heartbeat. Something in that glow was more than power. It was hope. But outside, the commander's voice roared through the fortress. "Seal the gates. Do not let them escape." The human's grip tightened on his rod. His eyes met the mother's. "We fight our way out," he said. Together. And for the first time she believed they could. The fortress burned with alarms. Red lights flashed across steel walls. Sirens wailed, soldiers shouted, boots thundered in every corridor. The escape was no longer quiet. It was war. The human stood at the front, iron rod gripped tight, blood dripping from his knuckles. The alien mother held her child close, her silver skin glowing faintly in the crimson light. The boy's eyes flickered, filled with the spark, his small frame trembling with power he did not yet understand. The commander appeared at the far end of the hall. His armor glowed red, tall and cold, his mask hiding everything but cruelty. Dozens of soldiers fanned out around him, weapons raised. The commander's voice cut through the noise, calm and sharp. "Give me the child and I will make your deaths quick." The mother's arms tightened. Her voice was steady, though her heart shook. "You will never have him." The commander's mask tilted. "Then you will die screaming." The soldiers charged. The human roared, swinging the iron rod like a blade. He struck helmets, broke bones, drove enemies to the ground. His movements were rough, savage, but unstoppable. He took wounds, cuts, burns, bruises, but never slowed. The mother fought too. She had no weapon, only the strength of desperation. She shoved enemies aside, shielded her child with her body, clawed at any soldier who came too close. Her love burned hotter than any fear. The child cried, but his eyes glowed brighter. With every scream, light pulsed from his small body, shaking the air, rattling the walls. Soldiers stumbled, blinded by the sudden bursts. The commander stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "So this is the spark." Pathetic. He drew a blade of crackling energy, tall as the human himself. With one swing he slashed down. The human blocked with his rod. Sparks exploded, metal screaming against energy. The force threw him back, his body crashing into the wall. Blood spilled from his mouth, but he stood again. He faced the commander, eyes burning. "You'll never take him." The two clashed. Blow after blow, sparks rained like fire. The commander was fast, skilled, every strike deadly. The human was slower, weaker, but he refused to fall. Every scar, every wound only drove him harder. The mother watched, terror in her chest. She could see the human weakening. Each strike cut deeper. She pressed her child to her chest, whispering, "Please, please, little star, awaken." And then, it happened. The boy opened his eyes fully. Light poured from them, brighter than fire, purer than dawn. His small body lifted from her arms, floating between them. The spark blazed, filling the hall with golden fire. The soldiers screamed, blinded. The commander staggered, his blade flickering. The human shielded his eyes, but kept his stance. He looked up at the boy, awe and sorrow mixing in his gaze. The child's voice was small but clear, echoing like thunder. "No more." A wave of light erupted. It tore through the hull, shattering weapons, breaking armor, throwing soldiers to the ground. The commander fell to his knees, roaring in rage as the spark burned through him. His mask cracked, his body shaking until at last he collapsed in silence. The fortress trembled. The lights went dark. Only the glow of the child remained, soft and fading as his small body lowered back into his mother's arms. She wept, holding him close, her tears falling on his glowing skin. He was alive, safe. But then her eyes turned to the human. He was on his knees, his rod broken, his body torn with wounds. He had given everything. His lips curved into a faint smile as he looked at the child. For the first time, the boy spoke a single word, soft but strong. "Father," the human's eyes closed, the word lingering in the air like a final gift. The mother's tears fell harder. She whispered, "You are not gone. You will live in him, in us." The fortress lay silent, its walls broken, its master destroyed. The spark had survived. And in the darkness, a new story had begun.